Hi, boys and girls. This is Miss Kappa. Yesterday, we were looking at plants and animal cells, and now we're going to be looking at organisms and breaking them into two different categories. Today, we're only going to be looking at simple organisms. Okay, so simple organism. An organism is any living thing that can carry out life processes on its own. Some organisms are simple and some are complex. So, again, these are the two different categories of organisms, simple and complex. But today we are only working on simple. So, one of the types of simple organisms is a single cell. Single cells. Some simple organisms consist of single cells. These single cells can carry out all of the same life processes as a plant or animal made of many cells. So, again, because they're alive, boys and girls, they can all carry out life processes. First, let's take a look at algae. They are single celled organisms that have chloroplasts and can make their own food. Algae and green plants give off oxygen as a waste product of making food. Oxygen is a gas found in the air and water. Algae produces much of the oxygen on Earth. Let's stop there for a moment. That is a really cool fact. Most of us always think of trees and leaves giving off the most amount of oxygen, or plants, but we don't really consider algae. So let's take a bigger dive into that. Instead of making their own food, some single celled organisms, such as bacteria, rely on other living things for food. Bacteria are tiny single celled organisms found in all living things, including you. Let's stop there for a moment, too. Boys and girls, we have good bacteria inside of our bodies, right, that help fight off certain diseases and things of that sort, and also found in the food that we eat. Coming back to this, most bacteria are helpful. Some help break down dead plants and animal materials. Some help turn milk into cheese or yogurt. Some even kill other bacteria that are harmful to animals. Some of the bacteria found in your body help you break down the food that you eat. Although most bacteria are helpful, some bacteria can cause people to become sick. So, on the bottom here, we see E. coli bacteria. On the left here, let this move for a minute. We have some single-celled algae that live in the water. Before we move on, let's look at the Volvox, a globe-shaped colony of similar cells. So this is, again, a close-up of the cells. The cells are connected by a thin strand of cytoplasm. Now, looking back, we looked at single-celled. Again, these are all different types of simple organisms. We have a single-celled and we have a many-celled. Most of the organisms you are familiar with have more than one cell. Your own body consists of billions and billions of cells. You have many different kinds of cells, which perform different jobs. But some many-celled organisms are much simpler. The Volvox is one of the simplest many-celled organisms. It is found in most pond water. All of its cells are nearly identical. Jellies, which we see here on the right, are larger, many-celled organisms, but they have very simple bodies. They do not have distinct organs. An organ is a special part of an organism that performs a specific function. Your heart is one of your organs. So is your brain. Jellies have no heart, no brain, or other organs. Our compare and contrast question down here. How are jellies and How are jellies like algae and how are they different? So, once again, let's just take a little review before we move on. We're looking at simple celled organisms. So, we talked about bacteria, we talked about algae for single cells. Our many cells, we talked about the volvox and jellies. And tomorrow, we're going to talk about complex organisms. But today, we only looked at simple. So, the biggest difference between complex and simple celled organisms is that complex organisms have organs, like us. We're a complex organism. But today, we're only looking at simple ones. Well, I hope that helped. And then we're going to move on to our activity on the next page.